What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'm going to run through a free hit draft for Game Week 33 because I know a lot of you are playing the chip this week. I'm also going to run through a wildcard draft for Game Week 33 as well, because if you've got both chips left, there are a couple of different ways you can play it. So I'm going to talk about why you might lean one way over the other throughout this video. Just a quick warning. I am recording this before any of the games have been played on Sunday, just due to some stuff that's come up today. I won't be able to stream later. Wanted to get a video out, and I've got the normal early thoughts, transfer tips, etc. to do Monday and Tuesday. So I thought I would do this video now, and hopefully it's helpful. If any major injuries and stuff happen during Sunday's games, I'll cover that in other videos and how it might affect drafts and stuff like that. So you've had your warning. Hopefully you still watch it. If you don't, come back tomorrow. I'll have early thoughts out on Monday. And if you do watch it, hopefully you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So let's start with free hit 33. I'm sure most of you are already decided on chip strategy by now. But if you are unsure, who is free hit 33 for? Basically, if you've still got your wildcard and free hit left and your team looks good in game week 34, I would lean towards free hit 33, wildcard 35, and then play your bench boost afterwards. For most people, that'll probably be game week 36, just because it's close to your wild card. But if not, maybe you can set a better bench up in game week 37. So if your team looks good in 34, and you've got wild card and free hit left, I'd probably lean towards free hit 35, because you can maximize the double game week. Your team in 34 looks good anyway, and then you can just wild card for the remaining 4 weeks, maybe look at some differentials, get 2 to 3 Arsenal back in, Anthony Gordon, etc. If your Game Week 34 team doesn't look good, maybe you can consider wildcarding in 33 instead, and I'll talk about that in a minute. In terms of the free hit 33 draft, most of it kind of picks itself, and the team you're going to see is very similar to what a team will be for people that wildcarding in 32. Basically, I think that's just inevitable, and a lot of these picks will be pretty much locked in for me. So triple Man City, O'Reilly, Semenyo, Haaland. If you want to go slightly different and go for like a Cherky type pick or something like that, that's fine. But it's difficult to know who to drop. Like, do you really want to drop Semenyo or Haaland? Probably not. And are you willing to go without O'Reilly? I would also imagine probably not. So going for someone like Cherky, I would find quite difficult. So O'Reilly, Semenyo and Haaland almost pick themselves. The best attacker from Bournemouth, in my opinion, is Tavernier. He may or may not take the next penalty. Obviously, Krupi took the last one and Tavernier was on the pitch. But the penalty before that, Tavernier took it. So I don't think it's a certainty it's going to be Krupi next time, but it could be. Either way, Tavernier is the best midfield pick from Bournemouth, despite, obviously, Scott's goal against Arsenal. I have gone slightly different up front. So anyone that wildcarded in 32 will probably have a front line in 33 of Haaland, João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin. That will be the most popular. But for this draft, I picked Haaland, Evan-Neilson and Calvert-Lewin. Evan-Neilson's minutes have been good recently, and also he's a little bit different. So in my team this week, not free hitting, I'm going to have Gross and João Pedro, which I'm more than happy with as it stands. But for this draft, I've gone for Enzo Fernandez and Evan-Neilson. Now, maybe there's some slight risk with Enzo Fernandez, because obviously he missed the FA Cup game, and he's not going to play game week 32 either because of disciplinary stuff. But I'd be very surprised if he's not straight back in the team for 33. Chelsea still need to try and get Champions League for next season, and Enzo's a big part of that 11. So I think he'll be straight back in. If you don't want to take the risk, you can move him to someone else. I've got Gross on the bench. You could just put him in the team. Obviously, you can't pick someone like Matoma because you can't be sure about the minutes, but Gross is absolutely fine. So that's the front line. Haaland, Evan-Neilson, slightly different to João Pedro. It's perfectly fine just to pick João Pedro, by the way, and then Calvert-Lewin. Cole Palmer, I mean, absolute must, in my opinion. Probably the best attacker from Chelsea to go for. And then defensively, I've gone for a double up on Leeds. So Darlow and Strauch, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away. And then my final defender is Senesi. So Darlow, Strauch, Senesi, O'Reilly, Tavernier, Palmer, Semenyo, Enzo, Haaland, Evan-Neilson, Calvert-Lewin. There's not really too much more to talk about, I don't think. If you prefer Gross over Enzo, you want to go for Hinchelwood, Weaver, whoever it might be, absolutely fine. I don't think there's really... Now, I am recording this before the Leeds game, so this might be famous last words. I don't think there's a Leeds midfielder that I would necessarily pick over any of the 4 that I have. I probably wouldn't go for Cucurella. I've got Cucurella on the bench, but I don't think I would put him into the 11. And obviously Brighton were very popular on Wildcard 32, and I'm more than happy to have them for the double, but I don't think any of their picks are necessarily better than the ones I've got in 11, so they're on the bench for the free hit. Would I have any single game week players on free hit 33? Absolutely not. And I know a lot of the reason to wildcard in 32 was to bench boost 33, and obviously most of us will do that with Bruno Fernandes, but I would just take the risk on free hit to not go with him. Like you can go 11 double game weekers without having to make any terrible picks. I just don't know why you would go. I don't know why you would bother with single game weekers. So let's talk about wildcard 33. This is for someone that's got their wildcard and free hit chips left, but maybe their team going into game week 34 is not going to be looking that great. For example, a lot of people are holding on to Ekitike, who got 0 minutes in game week 32. That's a problem moving forward. He's not going to continue to get 0 minutes, of course, but you can't be sure if he's going to start, and even if he does, he'd probably get subbed early. So if you're going into game week 34 with Ekitike and a few other problems, it might be worth using your free hit that week and using your wild card this week. It still lets you have a great double game week team. It's also bench boostable later on if you've got that chip as well. And it lets you free hit in 34 to get a decent team that week. Maybe take a punt on a few differentials like Salah, etc. And by the way, if you don't have your bench boost left, you can still build pretty much the same team because you've got the likes of Darlow, Strauch and Hill who are super cheap. So in future weeks, you're not spending a huge amount of money on your bench. So this is what I've gone with. If you've only got wildcard left, I'd probably lean towards using it after the double and maybe just taking some hits this week. Because if you wildcard into this team without a free hit, you've got 11 blankers next week. So just keep that in mind. So the bench I've gone for is Henderson, Bruno, so Dean Henderson and Sarr from Crystal Palace, ready for their double in game week 36. It's not guaranteed that the game against Man City will go into that week, but it's most likely. And either way, at some point, they've got a fixture to rearrange. So Henderson and Sarr, and then Bruno Fernandes and Gabriel. Fernandes and Gabriel are pretty self-explanatory. Most people are going to want them 35 onwards, so they're in place for that. The one issue, if you do have your bench boost left, is this is fairly well set up for a game week 35 bench boost, but Crystal Palace will probably have European semi-finals either side. So at the moment, they're 3-0 up in the first leg of the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League, very likely to get through to the next round. Therefore, they'll have a European game, then game week 35, then another European game. Now, I suspect that Dean Henderson starts regardless, but Glasner might make some changes to his 11. Now, I know what people are going to scream at me. Glasner never rotates. That is true, to be fair. He very rarely does. Even if you go back to the FA Cup final last year, I don't think he rotated in the match before, and he barely rotated the match after either. So it might be he just plays a full-strength team in 35, but there are some risks there. That's all I'm letting people know. There is a chance that he maybe makes some changes. After all, Palace are safe, they're not getting relegated, and it's not often in a European semi-final, which they're not quite there yet, but they probably will be. So that's just one thing to note. If you set this up for 35, Palace players may be slightly iffy, but I don't think it's a huge concern. So that's the bench. Henderson, Fernandes, Sarr, Gabriel. The 11 is all double game week players. And that's obviously the beauty of having your free hit left. I think you definitely want 3 leads still, because they've got Wolves at home, Bournemouth away in the double, and they got Burnley at home in game week 35. So I've gone for Darlow, Strauch, and Calvert-Lewin. I don't think there's really too much more to say about that. Bournemouth, Newcastle away, Leeds at home. They also have Crystal Palace at home in game week 35. So you're going to use a couple of Bournemouth defenders in 35 for your bench boost. So Senesi, Hill and Tavernier. I think, again, that pretty much picks itself. You could go for a differential in Evan Nielsen, but dropping any of those 3 Bournemouth players is difficult. And I definitely wouldn't go for Petrovic, because Senesi and Hill are just both so good for defensive contributions. The 3 City, exactly the same. I know this is all quite boring, by the way, but it is difficult to properly differentiate from these players without going for a wild... I don't want to say wild punts, but players that I'm just not completely convinced by. Again, if you want to go for Cherky, you can, but I would guess that Semenyo's minutes for the rest of the season will probably be better. And I wouldn't want to drop O'Reilly or Haaland. So O'Reilly, Semenyo, Haaland. Palmer's in. João Pedro's in. So no Evan Nielsen like the free hit team. That's because I got 3 other Bournemouth players, which I think is more important going forward. And then that's it. So Darlow, Strauch, O'Reilly, Senesi, Hill, Palmer, Semenyo, Tavernier, Calvert-Lewin, Haaland, João Pedro. I think If I had more money to spend and I had a few transfers saved up, I would like to go for Raya instead of Henderson and then Gordon instead of Sarr. I think that gives you a better bench boost in 35, but I just couldn't afford it with this team. And there weren't really any other downgrades that I wanted to make. The other thing you could do is play 4-4-2 this week, and instead of Sarr, maybe go for someone like Enzo Fernandez and drop João Pedro for Thiago if you want Thiago later on as well. That's something you could do. But I think this bench gives you Fernandez, Gabriel for later on, and Henderson and Sarr are good for the double, which will probably happen in 36. This is what the team looks like in Game Week 35. So Darlow and Strout, Burnley at home, Gabriel, Fulham at home, O'Reilly, Everton away, Tavernier, Palace at home, Palmer, Forest at home, Semenyo, Everton away, Bruno Fernandes back in the 11 against Liverpool at home, Haaland, Everton away. I don't know why I've missed out the home part of the Fernandes thing, by the way, but apologies for that. Haaland, Everton away, João Pedro, Forest at home, Calvert-Lewin, Burnley at home. And then the bench is Henderson and Sarr against Bournemouth away, and Hill and Senesi against Palace at home. Yes, you've got an attacker playing against a defender, but in the world of defensive contributions, I don't think it matters all that much. And I think that looks pretty good as long as Henderson and Sarr both start. If you had Raya instead, he'd be in your 11 and Darlow would be on the bench against Burnley at home. And if you had Gordon, I don't know, Gordon's got, who is it in Game Week 35? I think it's someone at home, Brighton at home. So I'd probably play him ahead of Semenyo or João Pedro, I suppose. So one of those two would be on your bench. If you can afford it, I'd look at those two players instead. But I think in theory, that's quite strong. The only slight downside is you're not bench boosting the week after you wildcard. There's a little bit more chance something goes wrong, but I don't think it's a massive concern. So I think this is a fairly strong strategy. Given how wildcard 32 has gone so far, I'm kind of wishing that I'd maybe just gone for this instead, or maybe even gone for free hit, but it's done now. Either way works. I don't think the be-all and end-all is Game Week 34, but I think that is a big consideration. If you've got wildcard and free hit left, if your team in 34 looks really good, probably lean towards free hit 33. Otherwise, wildcard 33 can definitely be fine as well. I guess the only issue is when you get to Game Week 35, you've only got one Arsenal, but I think the rest of the team looks pretty good. So it's not a huge problem if you don't have Rice or Raya or Saliba, for example. Obviously, Timber was missing in Game Week 32, so you wouldn't go for him right now. I think that looks pretty good. Free hit, wildcard, both viable strategies. Let me know what you're doing in the comments below, and I'll catch you tomorrow for another video.